Okay, so with respect to how are we going to pay for it, first we need to know what it's worth. That's what the town was asking for. You know, we need to appraise it. We need to see what the book, you know, what is it worth value-wise? What's the condition of it? As I stated at the last meeting, without knowing that, the governing body can't make a decision. Now, the most likely event that if it is feasible, it is financially feasible for it to do it, it's going to be based off of net system revenue.
To do what?
To acquire the system. So essentially,
By which method? Sale
So
or
that's
condemnation? It's not for sale, so you're gonna condemn it, is that correct?
well, the way everything works, so first we have to acquire what the value is. We have to put a good faith offer into EPCOR, and if EPCOR refuses the good faith offer, then the condemnation process can go through. At least that's the way it's been explained to me by the attorneys and how the whole process and acquisition works. So the way net system revenue is, so you take the total operating cost, what does it take to operate the system? What do you have in there for long-term debt? What do you have, you basically say, take all the money that's coming in, the revenue coming in, minus what's going out. Okay, what's left, what's available for a potential debt service? So that would be how, potentially, one way it could be funded. Like I said in the last meeting, I don't think the governing body is going to move forward with this. If this is going to, require a bond issuance or some sort of tax increase or something, I don't think they'll make that decision, but I guess you can ask each of them that question. So yeah, that would be how it would move forward, would be a net system revenue.
And the other simplest way, sort of just a little way of, if you're looking at a car, used car or something, you see some old 1996 Toyota Beater or something on a car lot. It may be $800, I'll buy that with cash. If I go look at a Rolls Royce in a new dealership or something, $200,000 or whatever, may have to go talk to the bank. So it sort of depends on what the value of it is to figure out how you're going to attempt to pay for it.
Yeah, but who's going to pay you guys back? Us, the town.
And the budget doesn't have any money for it. The budget has a deficit right now.
Yeah, I want to go back to the protocol of how the letter was approved and what that means. And I want to disclose here fully and completely, I have no intention of ever running for public office again. So I want to get that off the table. So I'm not here campaigning in any way or trying to do anything like that. Second disclosure, I do work for the Office of the New Mexico Attorney General, and we deal with issues. We are the overseer of the Open Meetings Act and the Governmental Conduct Act, and so I deal. Part of my job is to deal with municipal complaints. So any town in Edgewood where the residents are unhappy with their governing body, I'm the one who deals with that first. Not always last, but first. So having said that, I can say as much, one, I want to commend everybody for being here, and as bad as you think things are, I can assure you there are communities in this state that are much, much worse. But I do want to go back to, I think it's really critical, and I think people are absolutely right. You have a right to know how this decision was made. And I really feel that there should be transparency and openness in that regard. And with all due respect to Juan and the mayor, I mean, to get up here and tell you that you don't understand how government works or you can't read a letter, I think you can read a letter, and I think everybody here is stating what that letter says, and it is strong language. And it is a legal document. It's a public legal document. It's what?
Is it a legal document?
Of course it is a legal document.
It's an official document.
It's a notice of intent. It's a demand letter. It is definitely a legal document.
Mr. Hill, I want to put in here, when I first saw the letter, I was shown a copy of it at Councilor Hawley's constituent meeting. But that said, I grew up in farming and ranching country. And I can tell you the mayor is correct when he says that is standard legal boilerplate language. And I didn't grow up in New Mexico. So I think that when you get these letters, I think that they are targeted towards possibly going to court and not towards
Okay, but with all due respect, and I don't want to get into an argument, but here's the issue. The client always has it's always the client that is submitting the demand. Whether it's a pipeline that's wanting to condemn your property, it's not the attorney making that decision, it's the client that makes that decision and gives guidance to the attorney. So Mayor, you guided the attorney to draft that letter. And Counselor, you guided the attorney to draft that letter. And Counselor, you guided the attorney to draft that letter. And Counselor, okay, I'm making a point here. I'm making a point. I understand that, and it's important for her to say that, because she can't, because this was done in a meeting where you didn't have an opportunity to hear how she voted. So I'm giving her this opportunity now, right?
They're not allowed to make a decision in a closed meeting. Right.
You're absolutely correct, you're not. And so I don't know how this decision was made, but Mayor, you read the letter before you signed it, because you signed the letter. I understand that you guys didn't even see the letter. Until afterwards. Is that correct? Okay. So, Mayor, you saw the letter because you signed it. And you either you either understand what the letter says or you didn't. If you didn't understand it, you had a duty to ask the attorney, what does this mean? And I assume you did that, and he explained to you, and because you understand what the word intend means, and that means the town will condemn this property if you do not choose to sell it. That's what the demand letter says. And you agreed to that, did you not?
Let me answer.
Okay.
So, like I said, in my lifetime, I've seen a number of those letters. Hold on, let me explain. You get to talk, let me talk. So, I've seen a number of those letters, just as Rita Loy has. We looked at it, it's like, about what that looks like a standard one of those letters. We intend to go with eminent domain. We'd like to talk to you about getting this, and in this case, seeking information. But I mean, it wasn't anything weird, as like, this is gonna piss everybody off. It's just a letter from the...
It's just this letter that I think we're concerned about, sir. This particular letter dated May 17th.
Right.
That went to the company Epcor.
Right.
This is different than one piece of property owned by a private citizen. This is the...
But it's not all that different looking than them other ones.
But it's affecting 3,000 people. Put the mic down. How did this letter come to be without a council vote?
Well, actually, council did give direction to go ahead and pursue after this. In other words, council did take their consensus. I understand you weren't there, but a previous council did.
Then we come up against the issue of making a decision in a closed setting.
No decision's been made. I keep telling you that. The letter is not a decision. We have people saying it's legal. Where's the case number on it?
Then back down now.
Well, I'm pretty sure Epcor thinks it's... Counselor Abraham right there. She gave her consent to pursue looking into this.
Mr. Mayor, I gave consent to look into this.
Right.
I did not give consent to send a letter condemning our water system.
But you did give...
I gave consent for...
Staff and administration, you said you were one of the 4 counselors said go ahead and look into this.
I'll speak at my...
You're being very rude.
No.
She's trying to speak.
Don't speak over her.
And don't speak over her.
I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're very rude.
Permission to appraise. We gave permission to appraise.
Right.
When did we see that appraisal?
That's not what that
When
letter
it
said.
came in.
After.
Actually, and it hadn't come in.
We saw the appraisal after the letter was sent to Epcor. I received a copy of it after the letter was sent to Epcor. I am a member
Before that, didn't it? Yeah.
of this governing body elected to protect these people. And I was informed after.
No, we've seen it before that.
I did not.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't either.
Sir, we're not asking what you saw, we're asking about us. The letter
I'm sure
wasn't
you've seen
mailed
a
to
lot
them
of things
until a
happening
week
back
later.
there.
It's funny that you're the only one who sees it, but everybody else doesn't.
Sees what?
You're saying that she saw the letter, but she's
No, no,
saying she
she's
didn't.
not talking about the letter.
You're
This is
saying
an appraisal
the
thing.
appraisal, you're saying she saw it, she said she didn't, and you said, well, I saw it. You're the only one who's been seeing things.
No, I think we've all seen the thing.
Not all.
No.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of.
No, not all
We're
of
seeing a lot
you.
now.
No, I'm talking, Audrey didn't see it.
Audrey's seen it. She's seen it the day she got sworn in. She came into the office, we discussed it with her, she's known about it.
She's not for it.
Well, shaking her head, so. She may be shaking her head, but still, no decision's been made.
Was the appraisal presented at council?
At one of the closed sessions we had.
There we go.
Closed sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce Wildman, Torrance County, 28-year resident. I moved, I'm assuming that if you take over EPCOR, you're taking over me as well, even though I'm not a resident of EPCOR? Is that true?
A resident of Epcor?
Edgewood? Apologies. I mean, I'm not a resident of Edgewood. I live in Torrance County.
Became part of
Okay,
the town.
I do not plan on sending any money to the town of Edgewood. Don't know how I would get by without it. But this seeming attempt at takeover is not, in my opinion, any way beneficial to the folks in Edgewood or who are served by EPCOR. It just, what makes a government entity feel they can run a private business better than the private business? I have one more question. And actually, it's more of a statement, and this is not exactly off of the subject. In Nevada, of course, where you have houses of ill repute, was the Mustang Ranch, which I'm told got into tax trouble with the IRS. And as part of the agreement, the IRS took over operation of the Mustang Ranch. The Mustang Ranch went bankrupt. I do not see how a government entity can say they can run a private entity better than the private entity.
Thank you, Bruce. Couple things on that. You don't want to send any money to Edgewood, but you have no problem sending it to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
It's a privately run business. Privately run business.
And so-
Government cannot do a better job running private businesses.
And yet the majority of municipalities in New Mexico do own their own water systems.
That's not Edgewood. That's their business.
Right, we're the anomaly.
That's their issue. Okay? Don't know how that came about. Don't really care because I don't live there.
Right.
Right now, EPCOR serves me, and I'm assuming everyone in this room, very well.
Yeah.
I would think that would continue.
I do not believe that the city council or any government of Edgewood Municipal can do a better job.
Well, I think we could do as good. Hold on. People, one of the things they've been telling in their propaganda is that they're not gonna, we would fire all the employees. That's not true. You'd want to probably hire the employees.
Hold on, please. Hold on, please. One day, assuming, and you're a businessman, I understand that. One day, you're gonna be out of office, okay?
Soon, I hope.
Who's to say that whoever replaces you is a career politician who knows nothing about?
Well, that's what you have your professional staff for.
They,
Juan has worked a municipal water system for years.
to the IRS and Mustang Ranch. The government cannot run a private enterprise better than the private enterprise can.
That's an opinion.
And it's
That's the
illegal
fact.
to run the Mustang Ranch. than.
Oh, yeah.
Like I say, you know, the majority of the towns in New Mexico are community owned.
That's immaterial to this discussion.
They don't run.
So far from what I've heard, 99% of Edgewood residents are against what you're proposing.
Yes.
Exactly.
And
We'll see.
as a non-resident of Edgewood, resident of Torrance County, I do not want to have anything to do, other than as I travel through Edgewood to go do whatever business I'm doing, with Edgewood itself. I pay my taxes, I pay my grocery receipts taxes when I go to the stores around here, Walmart and other places. But that's the extent of it. I do not want
Who else wants chit-chat?
Edgewood
I take
Council.
my gross receipts taxes to Albuquerque or Moriarty. I'm gonna support you.
Mr. McGill, this lady's had her hand up for almost since the beginning.
Thank you. I'm Pat Fry. I'm a resident. And actually, I want to talk about something a little different. Returning to your point about communication, though, the only reason I knew about this meeting was I happened to see it flicker on the sign down near the eastbound on-ramp. It went up, I believe, Thursday, maybe. So if you went by, and if in the cycle of notices on that sign, you happened to glimpse the word water, and were concerned, you did like I did, you did a U-turn, you went back around, you went into the Chili Hills employee parking lot to find out what the heck the sign was saying. That's the only reason I'm here. The newspaper was published yesterday because of the holiday. I'm surprised we have as many people here as we do. I honestly believe more meetings need to be held so that we can include both the people that are angry and perhaps people that do support this. But to be blunt, as a matter of relations between the town and the governing body at the moment, this hasn't been done well. We need more meetings like this, and I think too we need on the website, the minutes of the board meetings need to have more information in them about the content, so that people that do go check the website can attend the city council meetings. Not every one of them, for God's sake, but certainly those where we're affected. I knew we had problems with the wastewater system. I didn't have a clue anybody was thinking about acquiring the water system. And I think that when we try to discuss them all at once, people will be thinking about, say, the wastewater system. Other people will be thinking about the water system. We need to keep those things clear. Just some suggestions for starters.
William Payne, 2-year resident. I just have one question. I hope it's not stupid. What is the purpose of taking over the Epcor water system? Will it have anything to do with that horrible taste?
I'd like to clarify something here. We could all leave thinking that old existing septic tanks weren't the target of this regulation, or that no one's going to run sewers over to Tom McGill's house. In fact, this is a fact, the ordinance is unambiguous. The ordinance covers every single septic tank in the town of Edgewood that is within 150 feet of a sewer line that has been declared useful by the town of Edgewood. That's a fact. Something has to change to make that fact not true. The other thing is that I have a document that shows a sewer line that runs in front of my house that says Edgewood on it, and somebody paid $400,000 to make this document. That document exists. It does not have a date on it, which is what I was asking for. It does not have a budget. Somewhere along the line, inaccessible to me, is an engineering drawing showing slopes and the possibility of having a lift station at some point if they extend the line 10 feet. This is a fact. I appreciate the fact that the intention was not to affect existing, and I appreciate the fact that the administration is very sympathetic and they have all kinds of plans that the law is not going to be enforced as it is written, but that is the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Again, that's just stuff we have to work on. We're aware of it, so we'd be working on it. I mean, how else do you put it? We've been aware of that, and that's why we've talked about amending that ordinance, making changes to it. So we're aware, we're working on it.
Will you work on it in an open meeting?
Of course.
Thank you.
They're always done at public hearings. You laugh, but what disrespect? I'm telling you, I've went to these meetings for years. They're public hearings.
How many millions is it going to cost before you can make a decision? It's already cost $500,000.
To do what?
For all these things you're trying to figure out.
Well, I mean, you've spent money to, you know, enlarge the system, and that's something that's been a priority for years.
You're planning of how it goes.
Return are we getting on this money that was spent on the lawyer?
Hi, I'm Trish Sorensen. I've been a resident for 20 years. I want to go back to sort of the beginning here and talk about how our water system is relating to the sewer system. I think that I have no problem with EPCOR water. I think it's an excellent system. But what I'm wondering is, why do we have to pump fresh water through the sewer system when we're in a severe drought right now? And water is going to become an even more precious commodity because I don't see a real change of climate coming. I don't think the monsoons are going to come back. And I think it's a waste of a precious resource to pump water through our toilets. There must be some other solution.
So it's an excellent question, and I will tell you that there was probably really poor decisions made when that water system was first designed. I was told by the water science engineer, Dr. Egger, and she indicated that one thing you never use a membrane plant for is for commercial waste, and also if you have hard water. Well, our system is set up to provide only commercial waste, and I think everybody here knows the hardness of our water. So we're living with a white elephant. Basically, it was we were sold a pig in a poke, and I understand the person who promoted that system is now being hired by the town of Edgewood to tell us how to do our next system. So that's my understanding. So I could be wrong, but
You're right.
you can go back to public record. I don't want to disparage anybody by name, so I'll make that comment. So to answer your question, I don't believe there were times when we did have to flush the system using potable water, and we would take a truck out there and pump water through. But it wasn't a major event. It was while we were trying to get new membrane cartridges into the system. The solution ultimately, and I think you kind of started that direction, but the solution, as I understood it, and again, this is what I was told by the water science people, was that there should be effective coordination between the water supplier and the wastewater plant. And I suspect that may be part of the motivation on behalf of the town, because if you can control both the water at the source and the water at the septics, at the wastewater treatment plant, you can have a better strategy and a more effective strategy. And so when I talked about what our long-term plan was in my administration, it was not what you were talking about, Mayor, and I do understand that and I agree with you, but that was the interim plan. The long-term plan had to do working hand in hand with EPCOR. And we had deep discussions with EPCOR, In fact, we hired EPCOR to maintain the system for us because the long-term strategy was we needed to coordinate where the water came out of the ground, through the system, and to the septic system, and we were trying to figure out a strategy of how EPCOR could be a viable, be the critical player in how that wastewater treatment plant was designed and operated. So that would have closed that loop. And yes, most municipalities do not own their water system. Edgewood is different. I take great pride in the fact that Edgewood is different. And I don't think we have to be like every other community, because most of the residents in this town are served by a very viable water co-op, which is one of the most successful water co-ops in the state of New Mexico. And so we have solutions that are outside of government. And I'm not disparaging government. I'm a big believer that government can serve the people's needs very well, but not in every case. And so we were working really hard with EPCOR, and I know Mr. Torres and I had many meetings. I had meetings with Mr. Baylett, and we were figuring out with the engineers long-term, what can we do at the source where the water comes out of the ground to better alleviate the issues that we were having at the sewer plant. And those, I think, are the kinds of, that's how you, to me, that was a really good strategy. And I was really excited to where long-term, working with EPCOR and trying to figure out and identify where our long-term resource of water rights and water is going to come from. Because I didn't feel like the town needed to take that responsibility on. That was my philosophy. That philosophy did not prevail. I mean, I really campaigned on a pro-business kind of atmosphere. And the mayor, you kind of took a different position, and the people elected you. And so this is where we're at. But I think philosophically, that's where this town needs to make decisions. And you do have input, and you do have a say in this. And I guess, Mr. Baylett, I don't want to point the finger at you, but I'm assuming that EPCOR has expended a significant amount of money already on legal fees. And those legal fees, I understand, the PRC allows you probably to apply those to the rates that your ratepayers are paying. Is that correct?
Thank you for not putting me on the spot. I don't know if those legal fees are recoverable, but unfortunately, yes, we have been forced in a position where we are expending legal fees to defend our company and our employees. I wanted to give everybody else a chance to speak first, but I noticed people are slipping out for lunch, so I just wanted to make a few comments on behalf of the company. We've heard from the town that the vast majority of other towns in New Mexico are municipally owned. That's true. And many of them beg every year for funding to fix up their water systems from the state. And many of them are poorly operated. Many of the larger ones have contracted with private operators, Farmington, Grants, Rio Rancho. Many others have chosen the efficiencies and expertise of private operation. So that argument makes no sense. Water quality. Naturally occurring minerals underground have imposed a taste on the water. Unfortunately, it's to dislike of some, and others don't mind it. That does not change with a change in ownership. We can address that with a centralized plant, but it's real expensive. And most of what we hear from our customers is, hey, I got a softener, or I've got other ways to deal with it. I don't want to put a significant additional amount on my water bill to take care of a problem I've already taken care of. But EPCOR had a public meeting a couple of nights ago, and there were a lot of people there, and we committed to doing a survey of our customers. Just see how they feel, what they have in their home, how they're dealing with it, and what they might be willing to pay to fix it. It's not an issue of our ability from a technical or financial perspective to fix it. We can. It's an issue of affordability. And this is an area that we feel we need to go to the people to see how you feel about it. So we've committed to do that, and we will do that. we hear about from the town that, you know, the large profits of the company be used to finance an acquisition. Let me tell you, there's no large profits here. We are only allowed a cap of a very humble single-digit return by the PRC. By the way, you would have no cap if the city, you would not be regulated if the city took you over. In most years, we don't make that cap. And when we do, every single penny, every year goes back into the ground to maintain this system. Every penny. We have not sent a dividend check to Canada, our owner, in several years. So a lot of things you're hearing just simply aren't true. And the town is not a professional utility operator. God knows the wastewater system is an example of that. I've been to 4 public meetings over the last month or so on this issue. The council meeting on the 20th of June. We had a meeting on the 2nd of this month, the 3rd after the council meeting, and now this one. And I mean, you know, I'm not the best listener, my wife tells me, but I think the public has spoken. And it seems pretty dang clear that they think this is a bad idea. If you choose to proceed, we will fight, as we have said, with every means possible. And it's going to be expensive. We had an expert here the other night that said, that gave examples across the country, and it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's public record. It takes on average 3 to 6 years and many millions, not hundreds of thousands, many millions in legal fees. And if the town were to choose to abandon that pursuit, or if it would lose in court, it's responsible not only for its own legal fees, but ours. I mean, if there was a reason, if we were a bad operator, if we didn't want to cooperate with the community, by the way, the offer to help on the wastewater system is still open. But that communication has been cut off by you, not by us. So, you know, there's no reason. It's expensive. The town has spoken, and I would respectfully ask that you guys, you know, cut this craziness off before it costs the taxpayers more and it costs us more. Thank you.
My name is Robin Pascal. I've been a 15-year resident of Edgewood. I am also an EPCOR customer. I have prepared a petition to the New Mexico Attorney General in response to this issue. There's a copy of it over in the window, a copy of the petition, and a signature sheet for your name and address if you are opposed to this issue.
All right. That was to remove mayor.
I'm sorry?
What was the petition for?
The petition is to recall our mayor.
Against the takeover of the water?
It's to, my question to the council person was, can we recall the mayor? And the answer was no, but we can file a complaint with the Attorney General, which is what the petition is.
Well, you answered your own question. You can't recall the mayor under the form of government that we have, whether you want to or not, and I don't think you really want to go that direction, but it's up to you. There has not been a majority of the people in the community of Edgewood that has said one way or another how they want to do this. The population now, I think, is around 6,000 people. I've not seen a meeting where 6,000 people showed up.
We need a vote.
Pardon me?
Let's vote. We need
Yeah,
a vote.
because that's the only way you're going to get everybody.
Well, you've been told already by a couple of people that on issues like this, it's not a democracy. The council makes a decision. The mayor puts something before the council makes a decision. If you don't like their decisions, then you vote them out at the next election.
Well, it's too late.
Well, wait a second, hold on. We're going back.
I'm talking, sir. I've got the microphone. You can have it when I get through. Now, there was a lady that made reference to something I said the other night about people insulting elected officials and other people on the staff, and I stand by that. It has been done, and it looks like it continued today by all the haranguing and everything. if you want to talk, why don't you just hold your hand up and be called on? That's what I did. The other thing is, there is no way that the town will purchase a system without a series of public meetings or condemn the system. This reminds me of a little boy that was selling toothbrushes, and he filled the bowl up with Ebcor water. And everybody that come by, he'd say, do you want a drink of water? And they'd say, sure. They'd get a drink. And they said, well, what do you think of the water? He said, tastes like crap. Do you want to buy a toothbrush? Oh, yeah. Bad language.
Yeah. We got kids here.
What I wanted to say is, as you can see, I mean, most of the people here are going along and telling you that we don't want you messing with the EPCOR system. I mean, I went through it when after EPCOR took over Howard Calkins's operation, and we were told there wasn't going to be any rate raises. We got the rate raises, but the service has been good. And I'm not interested in our council making a decision and or the mayor making a decision without the comment, not more than comments, the vote of the people. This needs to be put on a ballot issue for the people who are going to be affected, because they should be telling you, the representatives, what they want. And they're not having a meeting and closed meetings on top of that, where we don't have a right to come in and we're not voting there, we're making comments. And you can say, well, you know, I'm going to dismiss everything that's out there. Is not any way to treat us, especially when you're talking $20 million for this and whatever else it's going to cost. And I think at this point, you guys need to go back and readjust it so that issues of this importance that's going to really affect people who have limited incomes or are retired and sitting there without having additional incomes are going to be affected long range. I think we have a right to speak, and I think that not just speaking here, but by my vote, I'm telling you where I want to be. Thank you.
I found out about this issue during the campaign as far as the forced hookups for the sewer system, and have always been opposed to that, and have been requesting since I was elected at every single meeting to have public meetings just like this, so that the vision of the mayor and the administration could be discussed with the public and with council, and so that there could be this type of discussion and debate. I am grateful, I guess, to hear the history because some of this I did not know, so meetings like this are very important. And I appreciate the fact that, Mr. Hill, you did work with EPCOR to try to collaborate on things, you know, in a short-term plan and long-term plan. And Mayor and Mr. Torres, I understand also, you know, you have your own perspective and ideas. Some, you know, of course, there's always pros and cons. But one thing that the gentleman from EPCOR here just said was that the communication on that collaboration had been cut off by the town. And so my question to you is, because I don't know truly what that means, how did it go from collaboration to not, at least from his perspective? What was the process and what occurred?
I'll answer that first. So what Brad Hill talked about there with EPCOR, we did continue that. We tried all that. We sat down with Mr. Baylett and Mr. Torres. Dennis Engineering even drew up a design for a treatment facility down over here around Quail and Dinkle. Mr. Baylett, he looked at it and he said, you know what? We've got the money to do this. We could do it, but you're just too small a market for us to put the investment into. He used a phrase, ROI, return on investment. There's not enough people here in Edgewood or anything to warrant this investment. So we pursued that as far as we could with them, And when they tell you, as is their want, that, there's not enough investment coming back on this, so we're not going to do it. So that leaves us then to pursue, well, okay, we can't do anything with the water. State's not going to buy us this brand new $10, $11 million Aeromod system. So then you're sort of, okay, you got to work with the one you've got. Dance with the one that brung you. So that's where we're kind of at. EPCOR, as Mr. Hill said, they were there to table, and we pursued with them, what to do with it. So we didn't cut them off or anything. It's just like we went there and they, said, no, it's not going to happen. So we move on to other stuff. EPCOR was running the plant. We found it more cost effective to run it ourselves. We'd like to have our own operator there and cut down on the payment. Go ahead, Councilor Abraham.
Are we running that, or are we contracting another independent contractor to run that plant?
They're overseeing our operator. They're going to help him.
Our operator is not at a level he could operate it alone.
Right.
So we are contracting someone to run our plant.
With the plan that once he gets his levels, they will go out and we will be there exclusively.
Okay, but right now we're contracting it out to someone else, correct?
And
we're not running it ourselves?
Mayor, Councilor Abraham, so we are running the day-to-day operation of the plant. We have an independent contractor whose level certification we are using to continue operation. But as far as the day-to-day operation of the plant, the maintenance, that is all under our control.
And that previously was EPCOR?
Previously, EPCOR ran the entire system, yes.
Could I just respond, please? Just to be clear, in that discussion with the mayor, it wasn't an issue return on investment. It was an issue that there's not enough people here to support that large of an investment. It's not that we couldn't make it or the return wasn't. There's just simply not enough people, and you're seeing that now. You've put probably $10 million into a system to serve 50 people. That's insane. That's like $200,000 investment per customer.
I'm not sure I'd want to do business with a company that does that.
We don't operate that way. And in that meeting, I said that that's not a good idea for that plant at this time, and I have a better solution. We discussed that, and you rejected it, and you rejected it publicly again the other night. So that was hooking up to Moriarty and regionalization. They have a plant down the road that's run at 20–25% capacity, and they're not growing. That you rejected. You rejected in that meeting, and you rejected again publicly the other night. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So we're sitting in an old...
Pride.
Let me see it, Daniel. So we're sitting in an old Moriarty school here. When they closed this school down, people squealed like stuck hogs. Do we want our fate in Moriarty's hands once again? You have a business comes in, Moriarty tells them, come to us, we've got the sewer. They can't even run a sewer up there. No, I think we are. It's making good numbers. I mean, you laugh about it.
It runs it at third.
So this is a letter I got from Tom Torres back in 2017. Pursuant to our meeting on April 27th and the town's decision to take over operation of the wastewater treatment plant, please accept the 30-day notice that EPCOR will terminate its operations of the plant at the close of business. I suggest we have a transfer meeting as soon as convenient for the town to ensure proper handoff. We are pleased to have been given the opportunity to serve the town since November of 14 and to have been able to bring the plant to a stable operating position despite the challenges of a design inadequate for flow characteristics. We leave you with a plant in compliance with permit agreements, or requirements, I mean. So, when they were running it, they thought it was up and working. We've had HDR come through. They tell us it's up working. Is it working perfectly? The best wastewater treatment plant on the planet? Probably not, but it is working and it's doing the job. So that's about all you can ask from it. Tom?
Well, this isn't as important to the government, but it's my understanding that the sewer plant last year operated on a expense of about $400,000 and a profit, a income of $7,500. Now you want to make that up on you want to make that up on volume. You want to increase the volume.
You don't want new businesses to come in and hook to it?
Yeah, there's no businesses on the map that I saw. I do want businesses. I know that there's. I believe in the growth potential that a sewer system applies. All I've seen is lots of lines running out to people who already have septic tanks. They're ignoring, for example, a subdivision of just north of town that's already ready to go, 500-something lots that can't function without sewer because
Where's
a lot
that
of
at?
Hillcrest, I think. But
Haven't ignored anything.
well, it's my understanding, and again, I'm sorry because it's lack of information. If I had access to information, I'd be more informed. But it's that there are established subdivision that needs hookups, residential flow, but it's and it was already in a previous plan, which I have here. Well, anyway, a previous plan that included, wastewater for the soccer fields, use, access to like the school that has its own, all the opportunities up north where subdivision, high-density, unbuilt subdivisions are going wanting. In a corridor where we've established that businesses can grow. And yet we're out here in this part of the...
Where the original line was laid.
And the original line's fine. That's the other thing, is the closed-mindedness of, I'm sorry, that's the wrong way to say that, is the not looking at other options. For example, there's no reason you have to do this, this, or this. We could have a line to Moriarty that's only 1.5 miles or 2 miles away that served Route 66 and perhaps a little pocket facility in the Section 16 kind of area. This is just off the top. Because this facility is not adequate, and I agree with you, it's fine, it's working. You've got it working, but you can't just keep dumping. We can't expand to this facility. And as
they told us we could do that. It's got more room in there for expansion.
It's 2 big tanks. One of them is unused, the other one is half used. So the one that's half used, the one that is empty needs needs the insides put in it before it can be used. The one that's half used is, we were told at a meeting the other night by Bryce, was at its pretty much capacity, effective capacity at half. So we could double the one that we have, and but we've got 50 users. What is it? Is it 100 users that's going to fill that one up, and then the other one gives you 200 users, commercial users, I'm saying, because that's what we have mostly. So I don't dislike that plan. I see some issues with it. I will point out that management is part of it because the membrane solution should have come a little earlier, I think, considering it was basically an acid bath that solved that problem. But I really don't want to degrade that. I think we're doing the best we can. We're going along, trying to make decisions as we go along. But I want to look at more options. You've got people in the community that have opinions. They have, and they can come to the meetings to find out, but they really need to be aware of what issues are important to them. And you need to access, like Bryce, people that know what, in the community that kind of know what's going on. I'm sorry I'm not a good speaker, but I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Art. Let me sit down. I'm a 32-year resident of Edgewood. It was because I wanted a small community that we can relate to and be part of. Just recently, at a meeting of the town council, zoning was disapproved because you did not know what the traffic flow was going to be. So the plan for the house next door was denied, their zoning request. because of the problem of traffic going down this highway right out here. That's not small community. You've got a brand new school being built right over there, yet you're complaining about this one being condemned. Why can't we reuse some of our resources? And I know you're reusing it with the council and stuff. But if I want the traffic of Albuquerque, I will go to Albuquerque and face the traffic. If I wanted the type of government they have in Moriarty, I would live in Moriarty. And when you say that, oh, well, we didn't really mean that we're going to force you to go onto the wastewater system, however, at the council meeting, you said, we will lien your house. You did say that. We will put liens on your homes if you don't hook up to the water system. So let me tell you a little parable. There was this couple, they lived up in New England. They had a beautiful yard, a lot of trees on it. They had a wonderful flower garden. The lawn was manicured. But they were having problems, health problems. They went to the doctor. He says, oh, you got allergies. Well, I understand that if you go to the Southwest, you won't have those allergies. So they moved. Let's, for sake, say they moved to Edgewood. Live fine, no allergies, no problems for at least 3 years. Then their trees started growing up. And then their flower beds started blooming. And then their lawn was perfect. And they went to the doctor. Why are we feeling so bad again? You've got allergies. You brought them with you.
All right, so to address the lien, the lien comment, so I did make that comment in a meeting, and that was one of the concerns that we had of, I believe it was Mr. Seegers at the time had made the comment of someone's not going to be able to afford, a $15,000 connection or something like that at once. So I said one of the options we've been looking into at what other communities have done was to basically put a lien on the property, make the connection, and give them the time to pay that back over years. But that is not the option. That was just saying we're looking into what other communities have done. We've reached out to Rural Water, to other organizations to see how do they do it in those situations. So it wasn't, hey, I'm going to lien your property. I mean, that was not the comment or the context of it.
Words have meaning, so you gotta watch how you say your words.
I'm on the context of it.